Michigan did lose its first game today since a year ago, since the last spring game, due to the 15-0 season that they celebrated this morning with the ring ceremony. So whoever planned that was just on it. Okay, we're going to have the ring ceremony. We're going to fly. We're going to have everybody fly, and Harbaugh's going to be here. And then this game, and then Fox covered it all. So,
yeah, absolutely. And so before we get to the game, we might as well stop right there, because there was much of that was shown during the course of the game and at halftime, with Gus Johnson as the master of ceremonies. Jim Harbaugh came back. We saw all the great players from last year: J.J. McCarthy, Blake Corum, the headliners, and of course heard from Sharon Moore there as well. And rings were presented in the box of 4 that they showed at one point during one of the teases to break. I believe was a Big Ten championship ring, was a Rose Bowl championship, was the national championship. I thought there was a 4th ring there. I don't know what that would be.
So Michigan ring.
Well, the 4th ring is supposed to be a playoff ring, but there's some controversy on the message boards, because it's like, well, it says national champion on the playoff ring. So but the insiders were told that the 4th ring's a playoff ring, even though it has national champion on it. I don't know. Maybe we'll get more detail in the next day or two.
So for going to the playoff.
Gotcha. Yeah, apparently it's from the college football committee.
There's a college football playoff ring.
Yep.
There's a Michigan ring. So Michigan created a ring. Then you have the Rose Bowl and the Big Ten championship. So 4 rings that everybody got from that team.
Comments and questions, welcome as always, folks, right here at the Voice of College Football. We will dive in on what we saw today. We appreciate the Super Chat contributions as well. We've got one coming in from Moose. We will get to that in just a second, but thank you so much for that, Moose. We might as well start, John, with the starting point for a lot of teams, but especially when you've got a quarterback battle. So Alex Orji comes out of the chute and he misfires on a couple throws that looked pretty ugly. And then after that, got into the rhythm, looked pretty darn good to me.
Yeah. I thought Alex Orji had a fairly solid effort today. I actually thought, given the fact that he only had maybe one series and then he had one where he was kind of splitting with Jaden Davis, they might have already named him the starter, because if that's all he's playing today, then that might be it. But then he played in the 4th quarter with Davis Warren on the other side. But obviously, one of the most impressive things he did was, of course, that 18-yard touchdown run. He then had another touchdown run late, which got called back because I guess somebody tackled him allegedly. I didn't see it though. Yeah. Because the quarterbacks were on touch rules and everyone else was on tackle rules, if I understand it correctly, TJ.
Yeah, but to me, the defender he was still like 2 feet away and he was diving, so it wouldn't even have been a tackle or a touch. I don't know. It is what it is. It's spring game.
Yeah. He did well. He did fairly well. I think really he performed as I expected him to. Who didn't perform as I expected? Davis Warren didn't perform as I expected, because I thought Davis Warren was like 4th or 5th on the depth chart. Clearly, he's been rising in spring and impressing people. And he had a really great game today. So I might have to eat my words on Davis Warren with very impressive touchdowns. 42, 48 yards to Kendrick Bell. And Frederick Moore. So that's who impressed me.
And TJ, Davis Warren's day began with beating the blitz off the corner. That might have been as impressive as a couple of the touchdown throws. He had somebody right in his face. He was able to backpedal and deliver a shot to the tight end down the field. So just, TJ, take us through the quarterback room and your impressions.
Yeah, I mean, incredibly impressed. I was on the portal bandwagon for a quarterback this spring, but I'm officially off the portal bandwagon and I'm on the Alex Orji, Davis Warren train to the college football playoffs in 2024. I think Davis Warren was extremely impressive, throwing under pressure, very accurate. Obviously, he's a pocket passer, so for Michigan to succeed with a Davis Ward-led offense would be the offensive line has to protect him. And there's rumors out of Ann Arbor that they're going to look for a right tackle to solidify the offensive line going forward. And then on the Alex Orji front, look, he's a one read and run it guy. He wasn't doing as much progression. He looked very accurate on short to intermediate throws. I mean, he did have a couple where it kind of flew over the wide receiver's head or was a little underthrown. And that's the issue with Alex Orji. But with his deficits, his feet make up for it, right? So we didn't get to see it to its full capacity today because obviously it's quarterbacks are no touch. But I think we're in for a hell of a QB battle all the way to game one.
Yeah, and then some weapons out of the backfield. Of course, Donovan Edwards was featured early, and he was certainly ripping up big yardage plays. Although I got to say, Ernest Hausman made a nice open field tackle on him. He also got tripped up going to the perimeter on what could have been a big gainer on the first or second drive of the game. But John, your thoughts about the weapons at running back and wide receiver?
Yeah. So I think that a couple of people, so of course we knew Donovan Edwards was not going to be in the game super, super long, but he had some great runs. And then we got to see obviously who was behind him. And, really from a wide receiver point of view, I'll focus there because I made some notes on this in particular. The other running backs behind Donovan, I think Dunlap had a couple of flashes there. But from a wide receiver point of view, that's where everybody's really wondering, right? Like, because that's been a position that that Michigan has been weaker at than some of the others, right? And that's been a consistent theme the last couple of seasons. So seeing Frederick Moore kind of break out, and apparently he's been breaking out in spring camp too, and with a 48-yard touchdown there, his ability to become almost like a deep guy, because you need somebody to take that Roman Wilson role, right? And who's that going to be? Is that going to be someone in-house, or are they going to have to go portal shopping? Frederick Moore might be the guy. I think we're going to have to see more. I think that fall camp is going to determine a lot too, but he's looking solid. And Kendrick Bell as a depth option too. So we know that Tyler Morris is going to be a starter, obviously, and Samaj Morgan I'm not even sure did he play at all today? I mean, he didn't play very much if he did at all. So I think they're the two for sure starters. And then Frederick Moore might be taking that other slot. So that's kind of my thoughts on those two positions anyway.
TJ?
Yeah, I thought Edwards looked explosive, and adding, so he's up to 215 now. Goal is to get down to 210 at the start of the season. But man, I was so impressed with Donovan Edwards. His vision looks right. He looks patient before he hits the hole. And his burst today was just impressive to me. He looks ready to carry the RB1 mantle and have another 1,000-yard season for Michigan. Behind him, Khalil Mullins and Ben Hall left a lot to be desired, in my opinion. I do think Khalil Mullins is RB2, and I do think he will be a very good RB2, but I just wanted to see more out of him. I didn't really see it. Ben Hall did not really get it going too much today. Cole Cabana was injured, which is why we didn't see him today, which is unfortunate. And we did not see Micah Capana, so that was interesting. In terms of the wide receiver situation, I'm not as optimistic in this area because I think we need an X wide receiver. I think Tyler Morris looks good, and Samaj Morgan did play, but he was nowhere to be found. He was in no man's land, right? So the good news is Colson Loveland and Marlon Klein both are going to be options. And Marlon Klein really showed up today. And then after he took that hard hit where he got that stinger, he was back in the game. And that's another thing I want to touch on. Maybe we'll get there, but the physicality of today's game. These boys look ready, and it's only April. So, I was extremely impressed with that.
Absolutely. And that's a theme with Michigan football, period. So that's a starting point. But then they backed it up by coming right out of the gate and saying, we're going to play tackle football and we're going to pop the pads. And guys were getting after it. And competitiveness, football, with all the talent evaluation involved, it's still the ultimate team sport. And it's also one of the ultimate competitors' sports. You have to be tough to play the sport and be effective. You have to be tough to win a national championship, as they did last year. And sure, they've had a huge change in personnel. They've had a mix up or influx of coaches. And of course, the head coach is no longer there. But I think you would have to be the ultimate Michigan hater to not recognize the culture that's been built, established, and been maintained there, regardless of the changes.
Yeah,
true.
absolutely. Yeah. And that's, it's and Sharon Moore's carrying it forward. Justin Trust, the new strength and conditioning coach, by all accounts, nothing's changed. It's status quo at Michigan. So do I realistically think there's maybe going to be some drop off from a Ben Herbert to a Justin Trust? Sure. But I'm sure Justin Trust is going to have his own flair that he's going to add to it. But I mean, even so, and even with the coaching turnover, I mean, to me, watching today's game, I didn't see a different team and I didn't see a different culture. I saw the same team that won 3 Big Ten championships today in terms of the mentality, the physicality, and then it was smash mouth football. I mean, there was a lot of guys flashing today, like a Cole Sullivan, the freshman linebacker who was impressive. I mean, I'm very intrigued. I think a lot of Michigan fans got a lot of answers today. I mean, of course, it's spring ball, so you can only take so much. But in terms of, is the culture going to be intact? I think that's checked. Is the team going to remain physical? I think that's checked. And is the quarterback situation in a healthy position? And I think majority of us feel like it is. So I was really happy with today.
Yeah, absolutely. And contrasting from what I saw last week, and I did see some physicality last week, but this week just felt like, okay, Michigan wants it. They won another championship. The mentality was on the field, tackle football the whole way through, tough mentality. Offense still has more questions than defense. We knew that would be the case, especially like you said, TJ, that X position and finding that deep answer at wide receiver. But I think Frederick Moore took a step today towards that. But defense, on the other hand, they were some real playmakers. Ernest Hausman, I mean, he might be one of the toughest players in the entire country this year, and one of the most impactful this year in this upcoming year. He was good enough to be battling 6-year starter, 6-year senior Michael Barrett. He was battling him for starting reps. So you can't suck and be able to do that, right? So he's an impact player. I saw DJ Waller obviously, stood out and kind of had some plays there. And so the interception of that Jaden Denegal pass that DJ Waller made, really impressive. So he's contending for that cornerback 2 position. We know Will Johnson's going to be, he was obviously first team this past year. So he's going to be cornerback 1, but then Waller's making that case for cornerback 2.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I think DJ Waller really stood out. I mean, his ability in coverage looked really good. And then his ability to run support, man. I mean, he was laying the wood on those running backs. And, Jair Hill looked good too. He had a good breakup on Peyton O'Leary. He almost got mossed. I mean, that was Peyton O'Leary with another flash in the spring game, so that was cool. And, man, I mean, Zeke Berry too. Shout out to Zeke Berry. He was all over the field. He was making plays. Jimmy Reuter made some plays, although he got burned. And TJ Guy, man, like that was my guy. Really, if I've been on TJ Guy for a while, and I think he's gonna be a name that people are gonna get used to this season.
Yeah, Waller had himself quite a series with that pick that he, of course, had stripped away, so the offense got it back. But then he came right back and he penetrated on a 4th down and wrapped up the back and got a 4th down stop. So that was impressive. One of you mentioned TJ Guy. He's going to be on that second wave, correct, of edge rushers. And he showed that he might be playing himself into some more snaps.
Absolutely. I mean, so you got Josiah Stewart and Derek Moore, who are going to be our starting rush ends and Sam backers. But then TJ Guy is probably going to be, if you remember, there was that year where Josh Uche and Quiddy Pay were the depth rush end guys and the Sam backers. I think we have a similar situation where TJ Guy is going to make a name for himself. And the depth is intriguing. I know there's a bit of a lack of depth at defensive tackle, which is why they're looking in the portal right now. There's a player by the name of CJ West that they're looking at out of
Kent State.
That's right, Kent State. And so encouraging. Although I don't know about you, John. When I was watching this today, I was like, man, I just wish we had Rod Moore. Like if we had Rod Moore, I'd be like, personally, I just feel like we look dangerous, man. Wide receiver is my question right now. And offensive line, we got to make sure that's solidified. But other than that, man, the tight ends, the running backs, the quarterback situation, I'm comfortable enough to say we're going to be competitive. It's obviously not an elite system like a USC, right? It's not that, but we can score points and we can get the ball down the field, and that's what's important.
Absolutely.
You didn't want to make that comparison to any other elite systems, did you?
No. Well, like Texas?
Sure. Yeah, like Texas. Well, you guys both alluded to it. This is all about today and what we saw, not just today, but I'm going to start to move this conversation more toward if you put together today with everything else we've heard in the last month, because everybody keep in check in regards to what we saw today. Today was very important because, as you both have emphasized, physicality and actually playing a football game as opposed to what we see generally, outside of the quarterback position. We're seeing a game that's played through the snap, through the whistle, tackling to the ground, the whole deal. But it's 1 of 15 evaluations overall for the coaching staff. So guys could have a great spring and for some reason not have a great day today or vice versa. So we need to keep the evaluations in check because, as most people across the country are checking the box that Ohio State's going to win a Big Ten championship, and if they don't win it, Oregon's going to win the Big Ten championship. I've been saying since Michigan walked off the field with the trophy from last year, hold on here. Hold on. Michigan is going to have something serious to say about this. I would not be surprised in any way if you told me any one of those three won the Big Ten championship. And beyond that, I certainly give Penn State and USC a fighting chance of some sort. Now, anybody else, I would be blown away with the Big Ten going to anybody outside of those five. But certainly, I think those three are in the running, and we certainly have all sorts of time throughout the summer to break that down. Not that you guys are open to say whatever you want about that. I'm just kind of I'm kind of counterbalancing the thought that we're going to have people out there who are checking again. And I'm not necessarily talking about people watching us right now who are Michigan fans, but people across the nation that are just defaulting this championship to Ohio State. And then if they're not, it seems to be Oregon as the second one in line that are going to have that initial armchair quarterback overreaction Monday to what they saw today and say, oh, well, Michigan's still Michigan and maybe they'll win the Big Ten championship. Okay. The truth lies somewhere in between, that we have three extremely capable football teams that could all win the Big Ten title.
Well, and I was going back and forth with our buddy Spaz from the Oregon Ducks Live program that we do. And he was, I was saying this might be today might be the toughest defense that Michigan faces all year. And then he was saying, you might want to retract that because Oregon has the best defense they've had in 10 years. So I don't know. I'm not. And I said, no, I'm not retracting it because I do believe that Michigan's defense is returning a championship caliber defense, especially with Kenneth Grant, Mason Graham, both coming back, both definitively saying we're coming back. And all these rumors about transferring, nope. that's not happening. So with that said, yeah, I'm feeling pretty good.